Good afternoon folks, welcome back to Bez's Carp channel. Unfortunately you find me here at home for this video. We are in the first week of April and currently on full lockdown, so fishing is a no-go for pretty much everybody. Hope you're all keeping safe during this difficult time and enjoying spending time at home with your families and things like that. So getting a bit bored around the house, so I thought I'd do a quick video. I've had a few messages on social media asking me about my solid bags and how I make them up, etc. Lots of videos online about solid bags, but everybody does things a little bit differently. So I just wanted to touch on that, go through a couple of things that I use just to make things a bit easier. Sometimes when I go fishing I just take a solid bag bucket with me, and that's pretty much all I use during the session, so it saves carrying lots and lots of bait around with you. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I use, some of the rigs, how I make them, and we'll go from there. Okay, so one of the first things you'll notice is the solid bag bucket. It is really important you get yourself one of these. It's going to help a lot, keep everything together, keep everything dry, and you can pretty much take this whenever you go on the bank. If you're going to be solid bag fishing, just take this bucket, have all your stuff pretty much ready to go, and it makes just life a lot easier. In the bottom of the bucket you can pretty much put any kind of pellet mix you want. Generally go for something that's small in size, just so you can fill all the cavities inside the bag. I always keep in there little scoops, some solid bags, and just a mixture of different size particle mix, things like pellets and crushed pellet, things like that. So whatever you want to put in there is fine, but just make sure there is some small particles to fill all the voids inside the bag. It will help with the casting and things like that. In the top half you've got a little tray that sits inside there, and that's pretty much where I keep all the solid bags when they're made up. Another scoop in there, and what I keep in there is any kind of powdered stuff you want to put in there. What that does is whenever I bring a rig back in and it's generally wet or whatever, I'll pop the rig back in there, and this soaks up all the moisture in the rig, and it stops all your solid bags from falling apart on you. There's also a feed in that as well, so that is part of the mix that I put inside the bag. Also keep in there my leads, inline leads, a syringe, so that I can inject the bags with some whatever flavour you want to put in there, just to give some extra attraction. So yeah, some solid bags already made up. I pretty much make up them before I go fishing, try and get about 10 done, and then as I cast them out and bring them back in, I'll generally make up a couple more on the bank side. So yeah, that's the most important thing. Make sure you've got a bucket, and you can pretty much have all your bags ready to go. It saves a lot of time on the bank, especially with wet hands, cold hands and things like that. It's a lot easier to do it at home in the warmth, or sitting in your garden, or whatever you want to do it. And it also just saves you a bit of time on the bank. So yeah, get yourself a bucket, have all your kit ready to go, and yeah, we'll go through some of the rigs now. We're going to look at some of the components. Firstly of the leader and the lead setup, and then we'll go on to having a look at what we're going to do with the rig. Apologies if the wind is destroying the sound a little bit. It's quite windy out today in the back garden, so hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, first of all, because I make all my rigs up in advance, I tend to use these leaders. Jungle rope leaders from IB Hooks, cracking leaders, spliceable, so pretty much splice it, put yourself a loop on the end, and on the other end have a quick chain swivel. And on top of that I put pretty much anything that you want that's going to stop the lead from going over the swivel. So whether it's a piece of tubing or silicone or whatever it is you want to put over there, as long as it stops that lead from coming over the quick chain swivel, that'll do the job. Next then, you want to get yourself an inline lead, pop the leader material through the lead. Sometimes you might have to use a needle to pull it through, and slide it all the way down. And again, as I said, make sure that the quick chain swivel does not fly through. What you want is this lead to be a running lead, and should you have any snap offs, this lead is going to come off quite easily. I also like using the inline leads, running lead, because it does give the fish a problem. They really don't know how to deal with this lead when it comes off. So yeah, so that's pretty much the leader. So So I pretty much have about 10 of them ready to go in the box, and then all you need to do is make up your hook link and your bait material and add it onto the end of there. So that's the leader, put that aside. Now onto the hook link. I tend to use a supple material, supple braid. You can choose pretty much what you want. It's going into the bag, so it doesn't matter about casting and things like that. You are literally casting it with a solid bag, so it's going to be a short hook link, around about 4 to 5 inches. It doesn't need to be any longer than that. And all we do, first of all, is tie just a normal loop knot, bring it back through, just enough to go inside the eye of the hook and over the top. Okay, so you just snip off the excess, and that's pretty much the start of it. Okay, then get yourself a micro ring swivel, have that aside, and then get yourself a nice sharp hook. I use the hooks from IB hooks, absolutely razor sharp, and they've also introduced the new Euro range, which are hand sharpened, absolutely pin sharp hooks. I don't know if you can see them in there, but these are hand sharpened hooks, really are super sharp, durable, excellent bit of kit. They're the ones I use, come in a nice little handy hook box, keep them all tidy. That's it. Okay, so start off with the hook. I'm going to place the loop through the hook and get it through the eye of the hook. Get your micro ring swivel, pop that through as well. And then when you got your loop, just pop your loop over the end of the hook, like so, and that gives you your little D there. So, and that's pretty much the hook end. It's easy as that, and it means you can change the hooks really quickly. Literally just take it off and put another one on. It's really simple stuff. There's plenty of movement for the bait on there. So nice simple little rig. On the other end, it's just a figure of 8 loop knot. As I said, it's only going to be a short rig, so probably about 4 to 5 inches, something like that. Just do a figure of 8 loop knot, make it as short as I can. Bring that back through. Wet it a little bit and then just tie that down. It's probably a little bit longer than I wanted, but you get the idea. That's pretty much it. Give them a little stretch, make sure it's all nice and tight. And then just pull that back on there. And so you want to get yourself a bit of putty. Get yourself a bit of putty, nice big blower putty over the end. Doesn't really matter how much putty you put on there, you don't need to worry about it floating down and critically balanced and all that. Just enough putty to make sure it's weighed down, so it just sits up over the bits of pellet and that you've got on the bottom. Okay, so that's the hook link all set up. Just need to put a bit of bait on there. We're ready to put it in the bag. I'm using spar baits. We've also got a liquid which you can inject into the bag once you're done. Spar baits pop up. what we do, pop that in. Obviously you need to check the hook link in some water to make sure that it is buoyant enough, so it is sticking up above your pellet. So get yourself some floss, a little bit of floss, stick that down. Pop your floss through the eye with the micro ring swivel, put it on your bait, close the needle and slide it down. And you want to make sure that the bait sits on the barrel, doesn't go down any further. You want as much movement as possible in that. Get yourself a little bait stop, pop a little bait stop in there, pull it down. Pull the tag ends down, put it nice and tight, that'll stop your bait coming off. And then just snip off the excess bait floss there. That's pretty much the rig. Generally I use a smaller hook bait than this one. This is 16mm pop-up by Spar Baits. I generally use a small one, but I haven't got any to hand at the moment, so it's pretty much up to yourself what bait you use. The list is endless: wafters, pop-ups, whatever you want on there. But that's pretty much the rig. And like I say, you don't need to worry about anti-tangle sleeves or anything like that. That goes straight onto quick change swivel, and that is your rig. It's as simple as that. And that'll sit nice and proudly once the bag breaks down. That'll sit nice and proudly over the top, and hopefully get you a bite when the fish does take it. As you can see, it's a safe rig, and the lead runs straight down. Obviously you don't want a lead that's too heavy, 2.5, 3 ounce lead maybe, and that should be enough. So that's it, that's pretty much the rig. I'll show you how you put it inside a bag, and we'll go from there. Okay, so there we have the solid bag. I pretty much use the small ones most of the time. You've got to bear in mind the distance you're going to be fishing at, and whether you've got the tackle to be able to get the solid bag out there. Make sure your lead's heavy enough. I've made mistakes in the past where I've put the lead in, has been too light, and trying to fish into wind with a solid bag is not easy at the best of times. So make sure you got your lead's heavy enough to get to the distance you want, and obviously choose the size bag that suits those conditions. I generally go for the smaller ones. Essentially all you do, put your rig inside the bag and then tease it into one corner. Try and tease it into the corner, okay? And then what I do straight away is add a very small amount of whatever mix you want to put in there. And I'll just drop that inside the solid bag just to cover the hook. Make sure the hook is not tangled around your lines, around your hook link. Push the bait into the corner, and I generally leave the hook pointing upwards like that. Okay, and then it's a case of get your pellet mix. I generally do this over the bucket, but I'm going to do this for the video. It's going to be over this wooden block here, but generally do this over the bucket so any spillage goes straight back into the bucket. Tap it down and just keep repeating the process until you've got most of the bag full up. Tap it down, fill all the corners of the bag. That's it. Try and keep the hook link in the centre of the bag. I'm going to put the lead in shortly. A bit more of that in the middle of the bag, and then some more pellet on the top. Just make sure you don't overfill it. Okay, so tap that down. And what you're going to do then is, as I say, this hook link's probably a little bit too long for my likings, but just for the video's sake, pop that in. That's it. So pop your lead into the middle of the bag, and it's a case of teasing it down into the bag. Tease that, keep tapping the bag. You want to get all the air out of the bag and make sure it's absolutely solid, just to help with casting later on. Fill all the voids. And then just keep squeezing the bag until you get that bullet shape, which is going to help with the casting. I mean, that's starting to feel solid again now, so just the little corners to sort out. Keep pushing that lead in, keep pushing it in and twisting it at the same time while you get the air out. And then just feel the bag, make sure it's solid in all the places. It's not going to break down at all. This is the tricky bit. Get yourself a bit of PVA tape, and what I do is I try and hold it between first two fingers here, get your finger out of the way, and then wrap it round as many times as you can. You still need to hold the top of the bag to stop it unraveling, and then just tie yourself a couple of knots in the PVA tape. Couple of knots in the PVA tape, one or two more. So that's pretty much it. Snip off the edges of that and of that, and then what we need to do is get all the air out of these corners of the bag. Press in with your thumb, push the pellet into the bag, make it more solid, and then you've got this excess PVA. Give that a lick on your finger and then just fold it over. See, that sticks down nicely. Use a different finger to do the other side, because obviously you don't want to use wet hands. And once again, same with the other side. Lick your thumb and then fold over, press down. And that is pretty much it. Snip off the excess. Don't do what I've done in the past and cut your leader. It's happened before, we've all been there. Trim off the PVA. And what I generally do with the PVA, the bits that you've cut off, tend to keep that one side, because there's been times where I've had a wet finger and caught a little hole in the bag, and just use some of that extra PVA and put it over the top, wet it down, and you've repaired it. Nice little repair kit, bit of tip for you. So that's pretty much the solid bag. It's as easy as that, and that's what I do with the leaders. And all you do then, onto your main line, loop to loop that onto your main line, and it's really nice and quick and easy. Get that out, cast a fairway, that will get that out into the lake. And then what I do after I've either had a fish or I'm going to bring it back in to put on a new bag, I'll reel in, and with this leader already on the rod, I'll clip up with this one, not with the new one. I'll clip up with this one, because once you put the new one on, you're going to have to put the solid bag down on the ground, around the sticks, and most of the time the ground's wet. So I'll always clip up with the old leader on there, and once I've clipped up, take the leader off and put the new one on. And then obviously if it's wet, which it will be, drop it inside the box with the powder, away from your other made up bags, and that'll be dry for when you make up your rig for the next one. So that's that with the leader. I'm going to go through the similar similar setup with a solid bag stem and show you how we do that. well, before I go, I'll just quickly go through what I do with the needle. Okay, so once I've got the solid bag made up, then you need to have yourself a needle, and whatever liquid you want to use. It can be anything at all, oils, hemp oil, salmon oil, any kind of attractants that you want to use, you use. I like the spar baits, liquid food. Suck that up into the syringe, and then just inject it into the bag just before you cast it out, and it gives a nice bit of attraction once that lands on the lake bed. So always do that when I make a solid bag. It really helps out. So that's that. I'm going to show you the solid bag stems now, and we'll go through quickly how we make them up. Pretty much the same idea, same concept, but just without the leader, solid bag stem instead. Pop that back in the box, ready for next time. These are the solid bag stems I use from IB hooks. They're pretty much the same, you can get them anywhere, but these are the ones I prefer. Get a couple out. Concept is the same as the leaders. The idea is that you can make a few up before you go fishing, save you messing about on the bank. All it consists of is like a rubber plastic tube with a metal wire inside, to tie your main line onto, and then you've got a loop on the other end so that you can tie on your hook link. So that's the solid bag stem. Get yourself a hook link. I'll do one that I've already made just to save up a bit of time. Okay, so here's a simple rig that I made earlier. Okay, so that is a rig I made earlier on, little short 4-inch rig, simple knotless knot rig, and all we do is put the hook link through the loop on the end of the solid bag stem, and then pop your hook through the loop. Pop your hook through, so you just basically loop it onto the end of the thing. So that's it, that's solid bag stem, and it's on your hook there. All you need to do now, get yourself a lead, get yourself an inline lead, one that fits over the stem, pop it down. You need to make sure that this lead is not solid on top of that stem. It's got to, when the fish gives it a shake, it's got to be running free. So the lead sits over like that, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go through the bag again, but that is pretty much it. So take your hook link, put it inside the solid bag, and that is basically what sticks out at the end of your bag. You've got that stem there, so that you can tie onto your main line, loop to loop style, and it's pretty much the same concept as the other one, just with a solid bag stem instead of the leader, and that's pretty much it. It's a great rig, it works a hell of a lot. Although I've had a bad winter, I've caught lots of fish on the solid bag. It really is a good method. It's a great way of having lots of rigs tied up before you go, and pretty much when you get to the lake, you're fishing straight away. There's no need to mess about baiting up and putting rigs together and things like that. These are ready to go before you leave the house. Get there, tie them onto your main line, and get them straight out onto the lake, and you're fishing effectively straight away. You don't need to be worried about low-lying weed and whether your rig's set up. This will sit nicely on top of low-lying weed. Even in some of the taller weed, it will sit nicely and then present a little bit of bait. So have a go. It's really easy. You just need to have a bit of practice at it. As I say, get yourself the solid bag bucket, so that you can keep all your bits and bobs in there, and you can pretty much take this wherever you go. You know all your bits and bobs are in there, and have a go yourself. It's not rocket science. It's very simple rigs, the most simple rigs you can use. And the solid bags just take a little bit of practice, a little bit fiddly, trying to tie the knots whilst stopping it from unravelling. But once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy to do, and you get a few done quite quickly. What I will say with the solid bag stems is that when I've dropped these in the water, I've noticed sometimes that when they've broke down, your solid bag is sticking up, which, you know, for some people might not be ideal, and can put the fish off, which is why a lot of the times I go for the leadless leaders. That's my go-to method, but you know, people catch on these a lot. They're as good as any, so give them a go. Okay, I thought we'd have a look at one of the bags and watch how it breaks down and see how the rig sits up once it's in the water. Like I said, with the solid bag stems, I found that sometimes the solid bag stem was sticking up, depending on whether the bag landed like that or whatever. The solid bag sometimes stuck up off the bottom. So, but as I say, they still work as good as far as I'm concerned. It's just one of those confidence things that in my head. So, pop the bag in and see how it behaves. So as you can see, the bag's starting to crease up now. Just take a good few seconds for the bag to break down, and hopefully we'll see the pop-up protrude off through the pellet. And there we go, you can see the corners of the bag now starting to break down, pellet coming through. There's the bubbles. There we go, it's starting to break down now. So it goes to show, when you do cast, even if you're casting into sort of 12, 13, 14 foot of water, your bag's still going to stay together until it hits the bottom. Obviously if you're fishing in real deep water, then you have to consider putting a couple of bags in rather than just the one. But there you go, that's it breaking down. And there is your rig. As you can see that. I don't think I've got enough water in the bowl for the rig to sit up properly, but you can see the idea. Bag's broken down now, and that yellow powdery stuff creates a nice little cloud in the water. And that sort of rises and drops through the column, through the water column, and there you go. After a little while, your rig is sat there, presented nicely. See all those little bits of particle, yellow particle. That's why I put the powder into the mix, because obviously the pellet just sits on the bottom. That yellow mix just puts a nice cloud in the water, and it just stays in the water column at the bottom for a little while. It creates a bit of attraction in there. So that's pretty much what the bag looks like when it sits on the bottom once it's dissolved. So irresistible to the fish, really. So yeah. As I say, that pop-up's probably a little bit too big compared to what I normally use a 12mm, something really small. 12mm pop-up on there, so it's not as blatant. But that's, you get the idea. It works a treat. As I said, I haven't put enough water in the bowl for this to... But there you go, folks. That is the solid bag rig. So guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you like the video. Like I said, it's the way I do it, it's not the way everybody else does it. I like to explain things, try and explain things in detail and why I'm doing a certain method, etc. But solid bag rig, effective method. Like I said, you're fishing pretty much straight away when you get to the lake, so I always take the solid bag bucket with me. If you haven't had a go, just sit at home and have a practice. Once you've tried a few, they are really easy. You have to forgive me, I'm eating loads of one guns. So yeah, all the stuff that I use, I'll put a link in the description. So check it out. Get yourself over to ID Hooks. Got some great products over there, and have a look on Spar Baits as well. Fantastic bait that they're using at the moment. They're pop-ups and wafters as well. They stink to high heaven, but like I said, I'll put a link in the description below for all the products that I'm using. Most of my end tackles from IB Hooks, so get along to their website and have a look. And again, onto Spar Baits. Some of their bait products that are coming out now are absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you keep yourself safe. It's difficult times for everybody, but hopefully we'll all be back on the bank soon. We've had to cancel France this year. It's supposed to be going the 1st of May. Looks like it's going to get cancelled. I can't see the borders being open any time before then, so I say cancelled. It's postponed until next year, next May. I'm hoping that once the borders open towards the end of the year, maybe, I don't know where it's going to be, hoping I'll be able to get a lake trip, maybe back to Dream Lakes, or anywhere really, just somewhere warm. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people doing the same thing as soon as those borders open. Everybody's going to be trying to get a week's fishing abroad. So yeah, guys, hope you're all well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I was just sat at home bored, so I thought I'd show you something quickly. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully there'll be a proper fishing video soon, when all this madness is gone. Keep yourself safe and take care until next time. See you later.